to them losing.
Ready for battle.
I think they could have been able to push that all the way had they saved that bomb. And Spitfire, they cut it close with some early ults of their own, so eh.
Attackers incoming in 30
But
seconds.
I will say that Spitfire a little bit better when it comes to execution. Like Fuel needs to get better at their timings of ults. So let's see what they do here.
5, 4,
In advance
3, 2,
time.
1.
Wait,
Attackers
I
incoming.
didn't study their compositions
Stop
here.
the pain.
I wish that was a pause. Like when you when you press space, it's a pause. But anywho, so Fuel are running. So they're on defense. They're running a bunker that has Mei. So again, this is just basically Mei acts as a shield with your ice wall, or as a way to isolate a target uh, that got hooked. And that's basically what you're going to do. You can also go for what do you call this? You could also go for uh could also go for walls that, well, you can also go for a spam on shields. Yeah. You spam their shield, or you can just use your wall to reposition. So say you no longer have a shield, you use both shield cooldowns, then that means that you can wall, then you can maybe move all the way to the tunnel. This is a bit more sketch of a place to hold out if you're a bunker. So yeah, the other option is, since you have a Hanzo, you can spam their shield a little bit better and maybe go for a flank. So this is spam. Kill the shield. You can also go for flank kills. Then it's just a standard halt hook. You have Immortality Field, you have a Mercy to Res. You go with your Hanzo when necessary for damage boosts. Spitfire might switch. Although, honestly, I think Double Sniper is fine against this composition being run by the Fuel, because it's a little less mobile, a little less able to get pickoffs slash flanks than what the Spitfire are running. They just need to flank Spitfire. They need to set up their snipers on high grounds, separate high grounds, and get pickoffs from there. But Fuel are making it slightly difficult. Nice pickoff from Taimu. Birdwing is able to go for the flank, but like Zachary was able to read that a mile away, it seems, because he was already in position. He is ready for that Widowmaker to do that flank. Okay, Amp Matrix is... this is decent. This is still fine. You can still pull them towards the Amp Matrix, as they're doing right now. Amp Matrix of their own is used by the Spitfire. So if you're the Fuel, this is fine. You might think that this is a little bit sketch of a situation, but the thing is that you wasted so much time. Like, it's already almost 2 minutes wasted by the Fuel by holding this close and then forcing a few ultimates from the side of the Spitfire. Maybe you could have saved the Blizzard. I don't think the Blizzard was necessary for this fight, just because it was already a losing fight. Like, you're down 2. There's no way that you hold this. Even with a Blizzard, it's really sketch. But I guess the additional idea from using the Blizzard right here is to force this ult from Bidoshin or Bidoshin. Bidoshin. There we go. So force out Bidoshin's ult. The Spitfire are a little bit more disciplined than that, and they don't commit it, especially when Fury is able to eat the Blizzard. So yeah. Another ult that I don't think was necessary is that Dragon Strike, but they might be switching. Though I don't think you need to switch Taimu though. Like Taimu on Hanzo is already good. Unless they wanna go dive, but Trill is not yet diving. So Taimu is the Widowmaker, Zac is... I guess that makes sense. Zac is a projectile guy. So this is still fine if you're the fuel. Wasted a lot of time. Although there are a lot of ults, that's a really unfortunate halt. So the dragons went towards this area, but the halt was over here. So that it pulled them safely away from the dragon, so that's really unfortunate from Spitfire. Nice combo, not really a lot of damage because Fury was able to DM. Immediately in response to the Valve, they bongo. Tries to go for res. It is in front of 5 people, so of course it's not gonna work. They one thing that I will say is that the Fuel managed to force out a lot of ultimates from the Spitfire, so that's rather uncharacteristic mistake, I would say, from the Spitfire. Like, usually they're able to read the situation well enough so that, okay, we're not committing any more ults to this because we already won. But they committed 1, 2, 3, and I think they also committed the dragon. Yeah, they did. So they committed 4 for just 1. It's like those are just used 1 ult. That's it. They forced out 4, so that's really good if you have fuel. They just need to hold the high ground positions here, lest they get outsniped. Fortunately, they can't take the high ground position, so even if they did force out the Spitfire to use a lot of ultimates, they couldn't take the high ground over here or over here. Thus, they got outsniped. And that it seems like they're snowballing, but it's not really a snowball. The Spitfire don't really have a lot of resources in terms of ults. They just got outsniped, outpositioned. And yeah, that's why that wasn't much of a second point fight. So ideally you wanna have 2 fights on any payload second point so that you can stop the snowball. So that they don't just snowball on the 3rd point, which is what the Spitfire are currently trying to do. Actually, they're primed to do it. OG, or Trill rather, goes for a bongo. This bongo is a little bit better in terms of positioning. This is what my team calls a flanking bongo. It doesn't really necessarily mean that your wrist is going to go for a solo flank and then plant a bongo. It's more of the bongo is planted somewhere where it's kinda safe, but still in line of sight, like around a corner. But it's still line of sighting the rest of the team, so it's actually really good. There's no real way that the opposing team is capable of killing this unless they go all the way around. Oops. All the way around. Or go for an EMP, which the Spitfire do not have. So you don't really care. I'm not 100% sure why they popped Widowmaker's ult here. Perhaps because they have a sense that the Fuel are going for... Maybe the Fuel's snipers are going for an aggressive push. Because they do have bongo. And the shield from the Spitfire is cracking. So maybe you could have had Zachary position here, and then Taimu is going to go for a really long flank and maybe get a pick off. over in this direction, or this area. So let me just position that a little bit better. So maybe he went for that play, but then seeing this picture a little bit better, by getting a proper angle like that, it becomes clear why they popped that ult from Birdring. Excuse me. Birdring popped that ult so that this guy, Prophet, can have knowledge of where the squishies of the fuel are, especially that there's a diva up there. So maybe he can now go for a snipe. And perhaps to dissuade, to a certain degree, dissuade the fuel from going forward. Because you can argue that since they popped Bongo, they were going to go for an aggressive push. Especially since they have this dragon as well from Zac. But having infrasight means that this push might be a little bit more sketch from the Spitfire, or the fuel rather. So it dissuades them from pushing completely, because it would be risky. So the Bongos did nothing, neither did the dragon. It's unlucky. Zachary's going to go for a flank. Maybe get a pick off on the backline of the Spitfire. He gets found out, which is really unlucky. I think there was a Sonic Arrow or still the Infrasight going up. Either way, this is a play that was necessary, I think, because he was already isolated. So he rotated all the way there, tried to get a pick off. He got discovered. He was isolated as far as I recall. That's why he chose to just use this opportunity to maybe get a pick off on the back line. Unfortunately, he gets picked off himself. And now the Spitfire definitely primed to go for a snowball. The only way that the fuel can win this is if Note builds up a bomb and throws it over there, just to buy time. It's not necessarily to get a pick off from the bomb itself, it's just to buy time. Maybe if you can isolate Gesture over here, then it's worth. You also have Bidoshin, but Bidoshin can just pop Trance, right? So in response to the bomb, Trance, maybe you can save Gesture. There is Onko on Ana, so that means that Nade might negate the Trance. So we'll see. They don't have the bomb yet, so this is a bit problematic.
Pass into the iris.
So Bidoshin gets found out by Zachary, has to pop the Transcendence. Note builds up the bomb, but gets no value because his teammates could quite follow up on the bomb. Taimu does get a pick off on Prophet, so maybe they now have a chance. Still sketch because Zachary did get picked off himself, which means that the damage output from the fuel is a lot lower than the Spitfire. And you win team fights in Overwatch not by heals or extra tankiness, but through kills. So a team with the most amount of damage, or capable of outputting the most amount of damage to get the kills, will definitely win. And I think Spitfire definitely has that, especially if you still have Bidoshin, who has Orb. And there's also an Amp Matrix, so this makes it very much in favor of the Spitfire despite the close spawns. Although, since Zachary did get a 2k, then this turns around quite a bit. Amp Matrix up. Okay, so it's also key. It's also key that Nas got picked off. Had he survived, I think there's still going to be enough sustain. here. Uh, Vidoshin going down is also key because apart from sustain, you also have less damage. So Vidoshin going down means Vidoshin equals orb, the Discord orbs, and also the healing orbs. Nus going down is just less sustain. And that's why they lose this fight. Even if they do have the damage, the spawns from the fuel are just enough. Plus, like, Zachary just cleans up afterwards. Like, respawns are really short. They could have just won that, but had the support survived, the damage output and the fact that Prophet comes back would have been enough. Should have been enough. But they couldn't, so there's that. A very key stoppage by the fuel because the Spitfire were definitely snowballing. They did use their ult, so had they finished this map, it would have been great, even though the Spitfire ultimates were a little less efficient. Bomb goes out. I hate the fact that you can go through the ceiling. We'll have to make do, because this kind of happens from time to time. Obfuscates what's happening on the point.
Cease your resistance.
It's another good bongo. It's a good bongo not just in terms of position, but also the fact that the moment that they popped the bongo was also the exact same moment that the shield from Gesture was broken and now on cooldown. So that was his second shield. So now the Spitfire are forced to retreat, but then that gives opportunity for the fuel to get picks. Because there's not really a lot of cover here. Like, the moment that you have no shield, you need to hug some corner. That's why if you're Reinhardt, you typically shield or position yourself in such a way that if your shield does break, you have a corner to hide in. But since the shield was placed here and they positioned over here as Spitfire, there's not really a lot of places to go for cover. I mean, you can go to the payload, but that's closer to the fuel. You're fucked. You're going to this pillar, but the pillar is where the fuel are, so you're also fucked. And this is like a kilometer away. This might as well be a kilometer away if you're the Spitfire. Not to mention that Trill definitely has halt. So if you go this direction, you just get halted. You're back where you started, and yeah, you're definitely screwed. So that's really good play from Trill.
60 seconds remaining.
So now you're in a bit of trouble if you're the Spitfire. They're still gonna go back to this double sniper thing. I genuinely don't like double sniper on this third point, just because there's just one sight line that you can use, and that's this. I mean, you could also argue that yeah, you can position your snipers over here to go for what do you call this? Sniper positions over there, and you can go for a crossfire of sorts, but it's still generally a straight corridor. Therefore, your snipers, yes, they can snipe from really, really far away, but you're putting your eggs in just one basket. Typically, it's either here or here. So what? It's the distance is just really short. So it's not really much of a crossfire. So if you're the Spitfire, I think you could make an argument for a dive, or you can just go for a push composition yourself. So instead of double sniper, you can maybe sacrifice just one sniper. So instead, Prophet goes. You can go Junkrat. Junkrat equals shield pressure. Granted, Note can eat some of your some of your shots, and that Unko will gain a lot of value by the fact that Batiste ult just charges really fast. At least you will be able to pressure Trill from his current position. So Trill just needs to back off every single time. So you'll have shield pressure from the Spitfire if you instead have a Junkrat. The Fuel pretty much have committed to this composition, which is not really good against a Junkrat. You can also switch Fury to a Roadhog, which means that Polehawk is going to be a thing. Finishing off targets may not be as easy because again, Note is still present as Diva, but you don't really have to be afraid of nade because there is no nade from the Fuel. So another option that they can go for is Fury going Hog. Again, this provides another avenue of shield pressure. Plus, it's a little less reliant on your snipers getting good positions to snipe, because they definitely won't have good positions to snipe. I don't think they can. They can acquire those positions. So they're still going to go for this double sniper anyway. Let's see how it pans out for them.
30 seconds remaining.
Nerf this!
Pass into the iris.
Cease your resistance.
Now show time to raise my APM.
I guess this positioning is not too bad, but again, your snipers are just really close. They don't really have off angles to engage. Now, okay. Thank goodness that Zachary was eliminated, or else Birdwing rather would have been dead. So yeah, just really unfortunate engagement choice from the Fuel. They definitely needed Zach to kill Birdwing when he did that flank. They either need to kill Birdwing or Vidoshan. Vidoshan is a bit of a tough ask because Nuss exists as Batiste, but yeah, you could have gone for that flank from Zachary. Needed to get a kill on Birdwing. Instead, he gets picked off. So then again, I guess that was a really tough ask. So another way that they could maybe have made this work was for them to have, for the Fuel that is, for them to keep this, actually keep all four, except for this. Maybe Taimu can go for a Tracer himself. I'm not 100% sure if Taimu is much of a Tracer player. And Zac goes for Genji. Because that way, what can happen is that you have your DPS duo try and flank. That will result in a lot of pressure on the front from the Spitfire. Because again, you don't really have any DPS with you if you're the Fuel. However, you can use this pillar to keep your guys safe. You also have Immortality Field. Immort, just gonna say Immort over here. Keep your guys safe. So even if there is a lot of shield pressure, there's a lot of like focus fire happening from the Spitfire, you're kinda safe if you're just going to stay here as the Fuel. Because of this pillar, and because of Immortality Field, you can still contest the point. So you're still kinda safe. That leaves your 2 DPS of Genji and Tracer to maybe flank, kill someone. The moment that they kill anybody from the Spitfire is really huge because number 1, there's no res. Number 2, overtime. They need this push to work. They only have this one push to work. So any kill right now is high impact. If you're the Fuel. So that's really big. All they need to do is keep keep the tank up. Unfortunately, Closer went for a res instead. This is still fine. Shorter respawns means that Spitfire are out of luck. So in a bit of a reversal of fortune, Spitfire was a little bit more gung ho when it came to their ults at the third point. I think their third point push when they were snowballing could have been better had they been more efficient with their ults, despite having like a smorgasbord compared to their opposition. So overconfidence. Then again, they already won the series, so I guess it also plays into that. Also, hi Jackson. What's up? Currently reviewing a bunch of replays. So I'm not really interacting much with my audience. I'm just gonna highlight these and then put them on YouTube. And then maybe after this one, I will play some Overwatch. Just to see what Sigma is up to, or to just rank up with roll up for lack of better things to do. Fuel are starting with what? Fuel are attacking with double sniper themselves. Spitfire are using the exact same tactic that the Fuel were using on their first point. First point defense, again, if they can hold this for a really long time, it's really value, because they have all sorts of ways to stall this point. It's the Spitfire. The Mei, and incredibly durable tank line. The only difference though is that Nuss is using a BAP. So BAP has, of course, the field, Immortality field. Immortality, because I can't spell immortality. Alright, so BAP has Immortality, Mercy has Res. Plus Res. So that means these are two different ways to keep stalling the cart, or the payload. But I think this is more valuable than this. In the short term, because yeah, they get a pick off because they're double sniper, whatever. Your Mercy can just go for a res, and now it's an even fight. And maybe because of your particular composition, right here, you can stall for more time. Because yeah, you get a kill on Bird Ring goes back, Prophet gets a wall, maybe even ice blocks on the point, gives you even more time, because now they have like the Fuel need to ask themselves, do we kill the Mei, or do we kill the rest of the team and ignore the Mei? Will then pop out of ice block, start walling stuff up, start freezing your teammates, maybe get a pick off, and then now your fight is a bit more questionable. So, but in the long term, I think that Nuss on Baptiste gets more value, because Bap in the long run has a better ult. In the form of Amp Matrix. Valkyrie is okay, but Valkyrie just heals. Again, if you want to win a team fight, healing is important because it keeps your team in the fight. Having tanks that are incredibly durable is also really important because, again, you can take space and keep that space, but if you really want to win a team fight, you want to get kills. And you can get kills if you have an Amp Matrix because you have a lot of damage. That's why I think that even with the damage boost of the Valkyrie, I think Amp Matrix is just more value. Zachary gets another kill, but I mean, it's now a losable fight. So this fight from the Spitfire is a lot shorter than first point defense of the Fuel, but that's okay. They have more valuable ults when compared to the Fuel on their first point defense. So they're gonna switch. Oh, that's interesting. So instead of double sniper, Instead of retaining double sniper, I need to gain control. Okay, there we go. Okay, instead of double sniper, they opt for a Genji. Now, the reason why they opt for a Genji is, I guess, to pressure one of the what do you call this? One of the snipers. So that means that they're no longer concerned with sniping, which then frees Birdring to maybe get a pick off on either the backline or on one of the snipers that's being pressured or who's currently trying to get a pick. So maybe Zachary is getting pressured. That means that Taimu might be a free pick, or maybe Taimu is being pressured and is forced to an open area where Birdring can just easily snipe him from over here. So those are the options, and that's why Prophet is currently on the Genji. Also, you can also note that the positioning from Fuel is superior to that of the respawning team, the Spitfire. They already have the high ground. This Widowmaker is eventually going to go over here or over here. That means that if Spitfire kept a double sniper lineup, they would have problems trying to set up their snipers so that they can outduel the opposition. So by using this composition, which is a little bit mobile, like Hanzo is a very mobile sniper slash mid-range pressure guy. Yeah, Spitfire is actually doing a fairly good job of kind of mitigating this situation that the Fuel have put them in. Although they're still in the back foot, don't make no mistake. Positionally and perhaps in ults. So the Amp Matrix forces the Fuel away because they don't want to fight into that. After the Amp Matrix is done for the Spitfire, the Fuel respond with their own, as well as a Valk, as well as a bomb. If you're the Spitfire, you're incredibly happy because you had to use this, and yeah, you just used that. I don't think the Spitfire bombed themselves. Let me just check. No, I think they did. No, they didn't, because Fury just switched to the Diva. So yeah, so you're really happy if you're the Spitfire because you just used one ult and forced out 1, 2, 3, 4, and I think Zachary used this? No, I don't think he did. Wait, I think he did. God damn it, I am forgetful. Let's just reverse time. Yeah, he did. He did. So he forced out basically almost all the ultimates from the Fuel. From just one Amp Matrix. Which is like incredible value.
Helden sterben nicht. Nerf this.
Like, there's a bomb, which kills 2. Great, but like,
Now show them.
if you had to use 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 ults, maybe even 5, to just like eliminate a team that used one ult that did no impact whatsoever, like, you're in trouble, man. Your team is kind of sketch. You need more practice in scrim, because the ult discipline is kind of out there. your team cohesion, your teamwork, your team coordination, cohesion is a little bit in question.
Cease your resistance.
So Bongo typically means that you need to stay in a really small area, and that's why they do the dragon. Also because the Bongo signifies a push, therefore this basically counters that push, makes it a little bit more split up from the Fuel, and again, pick off potential for the Spitfire. They couldn't really follow up because there was an immortality field. But now they did demech Note, so that's kind of huge. Dragons comes out maybe to help peel, because they didn't really kill Note just yet, right? So the demech was real, definitely. You saw it in the kill feed, but Note was still alive. That means that Note can still deal damage, he can maybe get a pick off. That's why Zachary threw the ult. So maybe you can peel. Oh, damn it. So dragon, not B, it's a D. Dragon to maybe save note. Save note. And maybe dissuade further aggression from the Spitfire. Maybe get a pick off since the Spitfire are in a straight line right now. I should use that yellow because we are talking about the fuel. So this might get a kill, but Bidoshin has Transcendence, so it's going to be fine. They can fight inside the dragon. It also helps that the fuel doesn't have an Ana, so that means that Transcendence gets maximum value almost every single time. There's no anti-nade. I keep calling it anti-nade, wherein it's supposed to be anti-heals Bionade. But anyway, you get the point. Everyone understands. It's Overwatch. Y'all play it. Should be familiar with it right about now. So Amp Matrix goes down a little bit too early, I think. But then again, they're a bit wary of say Prophet going for Dragon Blade or the Fury going for a bomb. This is still a bit of a sketch area to go for a bomb though, so maybe they're a little bit more concerned about Fury going for Dragon Blade and therefore them not really getting value from Amp Matrix as much. But in my opinion, I think they could have waited for the second shield from Gesture to break and then Amp Matrix, because that way again they're the Spitfire are put into this position wherein they have to back off. Like they have to back off because they don't wanna fight into this without a shield. They definitely don't. Anyway, whatever reason they had.
Nerf this.
Okay, maybe he just throws it in like that. The lamp is gone. You could maybe go for a Dragon Blade, but the problem here is that the fuel are inside the tunnels. So if your Genji does go for a Dragon Blade, even if there is no immortality field from BAP, you're still away from your supports. You're away from the line of sight of the rest of the team. That means there's no fire support for this Genji. It also makes him vulnerable to getting stunned by the McCree. Granted, the McCree is over here. So Prophet is likely not going to go for that. At least not yet. He's going to wait until the fuel are in a more open area, like that. Forced out by the halt. Immediately taken care of is the immortality field, so yeah. So he was waiting for the halt combo so that the fuel would be pulled into a much more open area. So pretty smart, pretty disciplined, despite their really scuffed third point push. So at the very least, them snowballing and just rolling the fuel right now is not going into their heads. For the Spitfire. So the Spitfire commit 2 ults into this. The Amp Matrix and the Dragon. I guess the plan here is to force the fuel to back off into this tunnel, or maybe even just exit the tunnel completely. Wait, no. There's 2 people in the tunnel, 2 people towards the Mega, and another 2 people on the other side of the tunnel. So the Dragon splits. Perfectly fine. You might get pickoffs from over here. So now the Spitfire have an opportunity to maybe kill the 2 on the Mega, or to have a halt that pulls the 2 supports out into the open and in direct line of sight of the Amp Matrix. So yeah, I guess that's the logic as to why they threw the 2 ults. Now, if you're the fuel, you can peel for your team by committing this bomb, which is currently what Note is doing. This will split up the offensive of the Spitfire, which means that you maybe live. Like, you maybe live in this situation as Spitfire or the fuel,
Nerf
despite
this!
everything that's being committed. But maybe not. The halt is just too good. The halt is just too good, and the immortality field did nothing because it got blown the fuck off. So that was really unfortunate for the fuel. Back to the drawing board. You're still kinda okay with that because the Spitfire did commit 2 ults to it. So now the fuel is now on even footing with the Spitfire. A relatively even footing.
Face your resistance.
The fuel also switched, so they're going for this heavy flank, low damage, high burst damage on Sombra and Tracer. Note has switched to a Hog, so that means they're kind of desperate for pickoffs immediately. They're not gonna not fap, goddammit, faff about with double sniper. You could argue them going for a dive, a more divey tank line, but I think they value Trills. I guess they value the combination of Hog and Halt, as well as the Bongos, to prevent the Spitfire from going on an offensive themselves, so we'll see. But typically you win this as fuel by having your DPS again go for a flank. Maybe a hack on Bidoshin as well, because he does have Transcendence and you don't want that to go off. And then kill Bidoshin somehow, despite Nus being in range of... Okay, what I'm saying is this is really hard, especially with the composition that the Spitfire are running, but maybe, just maybe, they can hack... Okay, you know what? You can hack Bidoshin. Yeah, Bidoshin. And then try to kill off Nus immediately with your 2 flanking DPS. And then the fuel will try to hold the line on the payload with their tank line. Yeah, I think that's a better, more plausible way of playing this if you're the fuel. But it's really tough, especially if that happens. So your amp matrix is negated. Taimu could not get a hack or a kill with Zac, so now it's really rough. They're also very much stuffed inside the room, fuel, so the Spitfire can play this as slow as they can and maybe stagger the kills. This is something that teams in the Overwatch League and maybe even contenders don't really do as much, but staggering kills. Staggering kills is typically connected to Diva or Baby Diva, because a DMech Diva doesn't really do much. It's a complete liability. Diva or DMech has no impact in a fight, especially if Diva is the only person remaining in that fight. But you can extend that concept to, say, Mercy, right? If, say, Mercy is the only person alive in a team fight, it doesn't matter if she gets a res, because that res is going to be another staggered kill. And Mercy will not be able to impact anything in that team fight. Another person that you can stagger is Orisa. Orisa being staggered is another valuable staggered kill, delayed kill. Why? Orisa by herself doesn't really do anything. Like, okay, she can fortify, but who cares? You're still delaying your own death for your reset to happen so that you can have maybe another team fight. So what I'm saying is that you can stagger more than just the Baby Diva. So staggering Baby Diva is good. Staggering Baby Diva is good. But staggering the rest of these, whenever you're capable of doing that, is even better. Like, what I'm saying is that Closer should have lived for a little bit longer and then get killed. because that would have wasted another 15 seconds. But yeah, it's a rare thing to see in OWL and contenders. Tier 3 ironically does it a little bit more, a little bit better than both contenders and the Overwatch League. So on that, we're kind of proud. That's something that we can kind of pride ourselves with. Wait, how the hell? Okay, I wanna see that again. How did they get
30
those
seconds
kills?
remaining.
So Fuel have switched up to a really hard dive. I think they could have used this a little bit earlier, considering that Spitfire don't really have a lot of answers to ball. In fact, the only answer to ball is halt, and that's it. There's no sleep dart from the Spitfire, so this ball is really free. They can even go on to an incredibly hard target like say gesture. It's not really recommended. Um, Fury is definitely a better target. The most ideal target is of course the backline of the Spitfire, but again, Immortality Field, a lot of peel as well from the tanks, so that makes it a little bit questionable. So going for Note or the tank, or not Note, Fury or even Gesture in this situation is actually a little bit better because there's not gonna be enough burst healing from the Spitfire to save Note or any of the tanks for that matter. They just go for a hard dive. I mean, they go for Amp Matrix, but yeah, that's not gonna do anything. It's gonna delay the inevitable.
Cease your
Sure.
resistance.
Nerf this!
It's also a waste of a... Well, okay, maybe not if you can get kills from it, somehow. Oh wow, how the... Okay, what? What? Alright, alright, friggin' Fuel, how do you fuck this up? Alright. You have a 2-man advantage. Well, yeah, a 2-man advantage. And you still fuck this up. How? How is that possible? I wanna know. I just wanna know. So Note got demech, so that's kinda big. But that's not exactly why they should be losing this. Okay. So Gesture uses pull. Okay, so obviously they're not gonna be able to move just yet. I think if you're Zac, you're blinking this way, not that way. Not this way. Because this is a longer flank. There's no way to enter here without bumping into Gesture. So I think this flank should have been here. Yeah. Or maybe they don't even flank. Actually, you don't even flank because Gesture is not really contesting a payload. Like, he's not here. So what you can do as the Fuel is just chill. You can just have 3 people on the payload. 3 people on payload. Your DPS are going to try and harass from the sides, or maybe even up from the high ground. Sombra can farm EMP, whatever, that's fine. But the rest of your team is just on payload duty. Your tracer should be just like keeping an eye out on this and preventing them from easily moving out.
Cease your resistance.
Huge nade though. But I don't think they needed to do anything aggressive as the Fuel. I think you could have just played that as passively as possible and just force the Spitfire to move out. Wherein because this bunker is really strong in this particular room, because they have a lot of tools to keep themselves alive and safe from any form of damage. But if you can force them out into the open by pushing the payload, right? then Gesture and company need to position themselves right over here. Then switch color right over here, which leaves them really open to the Sombra, to everything that the Fuel has. So that was really questionable play. I think they got excited like, oh yay, we got 2 kills, let's finish off the fight. Sometimes you don't really need to do that. Sometimes you just need to push the payload, play objective. And now they're in a very questionable spot. Note gets a kill on Prophet, but who cares? It's a 4v1, about to become a 5v1, and of course the timer runs out. GG. So yeah, I think Fuel needs to work on their team play, because their mechanics are fine. I think their game sense is fine, but their ult economy is really poor, which means that there's a bit of there's a little bit of indecisiveness or unsurety with the rest of the team and who should be using ult and when and why. Because there are a lot of fights where they already won and they still use their their ults. So anyway, I'm gonna take a break. I need some water. I'll be right back. But thank you for watching. Hope you subscribe. I will be uploading this to YouTube. If you have any further questions or comments or whatever suggestions, you can leave them below. But for now, I'll peace out. So